There we go. Okay, cool. So this bear is called Barbaric Yawp. It is in its DNA, it's a Dunkel, which is a German style of lager. That's like a dark lager. It's also in our experimental line, so it's kind of got some unconventional ingredients and other elements that you wouldn't normally find in a Dunkel. So I'll just kind of like dress that down for a minute, and then we'll taste it together and see what we come up with. So a Dunkel. This is, like I said, a German lager. It's going to be dark, so the malt in it, the grains, are going to be kilned for a longer time, allowing them to take on a darker color, and then we put that into the beer, and that turns the final product a little bit darker. The difference between, say, a Dunkel and a stout, which is also a dark beer, is the type of yeast that we use. So a stout would have, anybody know what type of yeast? That's totally fine. An ale yeast. Okay, so this is kind of we're getting to where the difference between ales and lagers, which are our two main kind of splits in our yeast category. So a stout is an ale yeast, which ferments at a little bit warmer temperature and is a faster turnaround time. The Dunkel is a lager yeast. So that's the same kind of yeast. In fact, it's the same exact strain that we have in Omakase, River Light, River Trail Pills. So those beers, you can think of them kind of in one larger umbrella category, which is like the lagers category. What you don't expect to find in the lagers category is a darker beer, right? So that's kind of where a style like the Dunkel, I think, is like a really special style. It's supposed to be a pretty clean tasting and lighter tasting darker beer, which is a big difference between a Dunkel and a stout. A Dunkel, while it's dark in color, is going to be really drinkable, kind of crushable, and have a little more of that like light lager character to it. There are a lot of examples of Dunkels in the world. Not a lot of Dunkels being made in the US. You can find them at places that focus on German styles. Von Trapp is a great example. They got a great Dunkel at Von Trapp. If you ever go out and get like the Von Trapp mixed 4-pack, their Dunkel is one of the ones that's always in there. So yeah, okay, a lot of explanation just to be like, what's the base of this beer? Like all of our other experimental beers, so things preceding this, like Endearing Sass and Beautiful Calamity, those all have kind of like a base style with some experimental ingredients in them. Here, we've got kind of a Dubai chocolate take on a Dunkel. Dubai chocolate, for anybody who doesn't know, is a kind of like, it's like a viral thing, like within the last 2 years or so, I'd say, that it's got a chocolate bar and kataifi, which is a type of kind of fried, dried, like angel hair pasta that's been like chopped and shortened, as well as pistachio. So you kind of have these three elements in this chocolate bar, which is like a dark chocolate, a pistachio, and this kind of like dried pasta, which I know sounds really weird, but that's part of the thing. It's crunchy, it's kind of nice. If you haven't had the chance to like try Dubai chocolate bar, it's a really interesting thing. Anyway, the idea here was to get those flavors into the beer on like the canvas of a Dunkel. So we actually brought in kataifi, which is that dried pasta, and we steeped that in the beer. And we added some pistachio as well. So folks who are allergic to nuts, there's not a lot of it in here. It's like very like trace amounts. I'd say like it's like 2 ounces of it in. It's like less than 0.01% of the makeup of the beer, but the flavor is kind of there. So that's maybe something to watch out. I actually hadn't thought about that until this moment. Probably should be thinking about those things a little bit more. I'm internalizing, moving forward. Anyway, I guess warn folks. Pistachio is in the beer description, so hopefully that's going to cover our bases. Yeah, I don't think that we're required to anything as far as like allergies because it's in such low concentration, but I'll get back to you on that one. In the meantime, don't be afraid to serve it to people. It's going to be fine. The chocolate element comes in, sorry, so those three elements we were talking about, the chocolate element comes in specifically from the malt that we're using to do this. So we can get those chocolate notes out of different malts by toasting them for longer. Same thing that we're getting in stouts with our coffee and chocolate notes. Same thing's happening here. So that's where the chocolate's being incorporated. Yeah, so hopefully we're getting all three of those elements into each sip. Remember that these experimental beers are like, this is the first time that we're doing a lot of these. Might be the first time that anybody's thought to like put all these ingredients together in a beer. So feedback is very welcome. And, you know, I've had a chance to like taste this like kind of along the way. I think that we've got a great beer here. I think it needs some work. You know, some people like those other flavors really in your face. Some people like them in the background. I think there's value to both. But yeah, I think that's a good segue into let's you know, smell it, let's taste it, and tell me what you guys are getting. Besides just the obvious flavors, also like the intangible, like the body of the beer and, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I smell the chocolate, but taste the nuts.
Bless you.
I feel like the chocolate comes through at the end too.
Yeah, I get it as an apple.
It definitely like ends with a lot of chocolate.
Yeah. So like that could also be a little bit of the bitterness that's on the end that kind of builds in the back of the throat, and that's where like receptors for bitterness are located. What's that?
I noticed it more on the second sip.
Yeah.
The first one it wasn't as much, but the second one was like, okay, a lot more chocolate.
I do think this is one that you settle into a little bit. Like I sat here and after a few others had a half pour of the Dunkel yesterday. And I find that it's one of those that you kind of like settle into, like the Cure, for example. Like your first sip is a different reaction than like when you're halfway through the glass, you know, thinking about your second one. Okay, anything else?
It's smooth all the way though.
Oh, yeah.
Some beers like at the end are kind of dry or, you know, but I feel like it's very smooth.
Yeah, and
The entire way.
I think that's the beauty of the lager yeast, which is like, it's very clean fermentation. This has taken a while to like condition, and there's like a little, I don't know, we wouldn't say there's more care put into this beer, but like we're with it for longer before we put it in kegs. So we're kind of like able to spend a little bit more time with it, and we get into like nuances and feel kind of how the flavor changes over time as a result.
So, what's your process for the specialty beers? Like, what goes into? Is it you that are thinking of them? Is it the team, or it's just an interesting thing to see?
Well, the whole thing is a team effort, you know, but the impetus of the ideas and like the design of the beers and the names and everything, that's everything that's, you know, on tap here. That always begins and kind of ends with me. As far as the experimental line goes, so much of it is influenced by like culinary experiences that I kind of go out and have in the real world. Like we've got coming down the line a beer called Wily Rascal, which is a tamarind and marigold saison that was derived from there was this barbecue sauce that I really liked, and I was like reading the ingredients on the side because I was like, there's like an X factor, I can't like put my finger on it. I saw that there was tamarind in it, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like what a like atypical flavor that's like really nut, you know, like that differentiates things. So then that kind of snowballed from there. It felt like tamarind wasn't quite enough, brought in the marigold element, and all of a sudden you've got a beer, gets a name and kind of takes on a life of its own.
Small batches before you jump in with both feet.
I mean, it's the question. It's like, what's its small batch? So like, all of our experimental beers, we brew together with Big Slide. Big Slide's got the smaller system, which allows us to like mess around a little bit. So, these tanks out here, you got the 15s that are most prominent in the window, but the ones on the side there, those are all 7-barrel tanks. That's a lot of beer to send for like, an idea that may or may not work. At Big Slide, we have 3.5-barrel tanks. So that's about 115 gallons, something like that, 110 gallons. So, I mean, not a small amount of beer, but that's the smallest system that we have in our ecosystem here. So we brew that there. Aiden and I work really closely on these beers, which is also something that's really cool because Aiden has a lot of good experience, and like Aiden's the head brewer over at Big Slide, for anybody who doesn't know. He's got a lot of like really great experience as well. He and I both went to school at the same place in Germany, so like it allows us to kind of like put our heads together on these things and like maximize good results and hopefully minimize bad ideas. But yeah, we're kind of stumbling around in the dark a little bit, There's no playbook for like how many marigolds do you need to put into a beer to have the right amount of flavor come through. What amount is going to be too much, and then you get flower astringency. How long do you it's like all of these things. So like, it's a very cool thing that we're able to do at this brewery because we have another brewery that we can just work with really easily. But yeah, it's like a bit of a shooting around in the dark. Yeah. So
what kind of adjustments can you make?
I mean, there are certain points of no return, right? Like you kind of put your best foot forward and try and work it out. A lot of times we'll make like a tea out of something and then kind of take a little bit of the beer that's already brewed. So much of these ingredients we're adding in after the beer's been fermented. So if we're steeping something, it's usually a cold steep like right before we package the beer in the second tank that it moves to. There's some stuff that we put in the hot side, but like anytime it's a cold steep, we can like let the beer ferment all the way out, take a little bit of it, and then mix it with the ingredient that we're trying to understand like how much time is going to be too much time, like what does it need, and things surprise us. Like we had the Za'atar Saison a while ago, there's again no playbook for like how much Za'atar you're supposed to put into a 3.5-barrel batch of beers. So it's like, we
do one that just say no way and it just gets dumped.
We haven't done one yet, but if the day comes that we make one and it's gross, we'll dump it.
Yeah.
We're not going to try and like force feed it to people if it's objectively gross. That being said, like we try and keep our mind open because like it's one of the trickiest thing about being a chef, being a brewer. It's like not always brewing for like my tastes and like what I like. So it's important to like keep your mind open to be like, well, somebody might like this, Honestly, we never know until we put stuff on tap, which is kind of where this relationship is like very important. There's a lot of distance, even though it's just glass separating you guys and me and the brewery team. There's a lot of distance there if we're not able to kind of like get out and talk face to face or sit down and have a beer at the end of the day. And kind of communicate about this stuff and get the feedback. I'm trying to come up with better ways to get feedback to come through that side of the glass. It's a tough one too because it's like releasing the floodgates is a little, risky. Everybody's got an opinion, and sometimes we have some hot takes. Yeah, and you gotta be able to like stand up there and like have somebody tell you to their face that they don't like it.
Obviously the beer and the TQs are made of more expensive ingredients and like take a
Yeah.
Yeah, people were asking me that the other day.
Yeah, there's what, like 2 ounces less in a Tiku than anything else. Yeah, generally speaking, like those beers are higher ABV. They have special yeast. They've spent more time in a tank. Like that is like what we've chosen to serve them in. Like I don't know how, this is probably something we need to run by like front of house management, but like my opinion, like if anybody feels shorted, like if somebody like calls you out, like you can offer them 2 more ounces on the side as far as I'm concerned. If that's going to appease them and they feel like they're being shorted.
Anyone who's asked me about that is satisfied when I tell them that it's just a more precious beer, I suppose. Whether it be ingredients or time.
Yeah, I think that's a
Or
good
ABV,
line.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why a beer would like cost more to produce, and therefore like you're paying whatever price. But like also like that's kind of the glassware that we prefer different beers in. Like there's, believe it or not, there is a lot of intentionality behind the glassware. That's why we have all the different ones. So it's like hopefully each beer has been put in its optimal glassware, whether that's for aroma or presentation or whatever. If there's something that you guys feel like it's in the wrong glass, like let me know. I'll hear you out. You might get overridden, and don't take any offense to that. That's like totally, it's somebody's got to decide this crap at the end of the day. It's not always the right decision. Sometimes it is.
Great.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Before you guys go, Catherine wanted everybody to know we need